What's up? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and I'm actually really excited that I was finally able to make this happen. On the phone line from 106.7 K-Rock and the Klein.Ally show, which was the number 2 most listened to show by me this year behind my own show because I'm a narcissist. On the phone line is Kevin Klein. What's up, bro?
You were also the number 1 show I listened to this year, so you're number 1 on a lot of people's lists. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Kevin. Dude, I'm so happy to be an OG slogger from 2015, man. I've been listening. I cannot believe I've been listening to you. The first time I ever messaged you, I said, would you want to call into my podcast about 10 years ago? And you said to me, I don't think you've ever even heard my show. So then I began listening, and it's been a whole decade.
So I was right when I said you weren't listening, and then you proved me wrong by listening, and now you put in 10 years, slogged along for 10 painful years just to rub this in my face. Well done.
It's so crazy. You were one of the OGs when it came to talking about marijuana. If you think about your show from 10 years ago, Kevin Klein Live, I feel like now it's like the hip thing to do segments about weed, but you and Ally were doing that before it was really cool, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like now it feels like we've now had to move on to harder drugs because
mushrooms.
Everyone's embraced weed now, so I think we're just going to go straight to meth and bath salts or something, which I know as a Floridian you can appreciate.
Oh, yeah, dude. I see people. I live off of a busy road in an apartment complex, and when I walk out to go produce a morning show at 4:50 a.m., I've seen people overdosing before in St. Pete.
Yeah, that's the new official flag of St. Pete. It's just someone shaking in a parking lot at 4:30 in the morning, eating someone's face on bath salt.
It's a gay person with purple hair doing it. That's what it is.
Oh, cool. All right. Nice. Very, very forward thinking.
It is funny here. It's 50% MAGA in Florida, and then it's 50% liberal gay people, and there's a big cultural collide here. It's very toxic at times.
Yeah, well, that's why. Look, as you know, Florida has been the punching bag of the country, if not the world, for a while. But it's because it's got the highs, the lows, the good, the bad. I think last time I was on your show, I was in Florida. Usually I'm down there for the holidays. I have family down there. I always like to go, and it's always amazing when I drive by a strip mall and there's some guy spinning a sign that says puppies and snakes for sale, and next to him is a guy spinning a sign saying guns for sale, 5-minute wait, guaranteed everyone. It's it's such a Florida thing, man.
There was a thing that happened in Tampa last week. There was a guy with an AR-15. He had 2 AR-15s in each hand, and he was just walking around this rich neighborhood of Tampa just with 2 AR-15s.
Yeah, it's Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yes, it's Bubba and Calta. They're arguing. What do you think about the whole radio war thing? Because obviously I took part in the I was working with Calta for 7 years, so I had to pretend to not be a guy that listened to Bubba before I worked for him. But I feel like there was a time where it was cool to argue with other shows, and now it's I don't work for Calta anymore. I don't care, but it just feels so old now, you know?
Hold on, I don't know if you hear that. I'm getting hold on.
You're good.
An emergency alert because there's a massive flash flood warning in Southern California right now because
it really?
Once a year here, everyone freaks out. But that's okay. I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna go upstairs just so I don't drown during this chat. But yeah, look, I think the radio, the magic of the radio war is no different than good reality TV shows or anything. People love drama. People love to get caught up in the drama, and when it's something that is as petty and stupid as you stole my bit or you fucked my wife with Hulk Hogan or whatever, then it becomes the kind of thing that people can focus on rather than whatever the drama is they're dealing with in their own lives. So I always appreciated a good radio war in the same way I appreciated good everyone likes villains and movies, whatever. I think that the reality is that as people as radio lost a little credibility over the years, I think the quote radio wars either came across as insincere or phony. So I think people kind of saw through them, and then they realized do I really care if the afternoon guy on the hit station doesn't get along with the night guy on the top 40 stage? It just became like a little who really cared. But when people have real emotion, real heat, real hatred, I like anyone that's passionate enough about what they do that they take pride in it and look at everyone else like enemies, because I think that is kind of a mentality you have to have. And whatever you do, if you want to win sports or radio or anything else, you need to look at every other person that you're competing against as like, they're your number one enemy,
Well, yeah, and especially here in Tampa, it's very that's just kind of what Bubba created, because I've looked up radio in the 80s from Tampa, and it's the most hokey, oh my god, morning zoo time. And then once Bubba came here like almost 40 years ago, Tampa just has that reputation. Like I go to like radio conventions every like 4 years, and people will be like, everybody asks about Bubba. It's love or hate that guy. I don't know if I would say he's a legend. He's infamous. I mean, everybody knows who Bubba the Love Sponge is.
Yeah, I mean, one of the. Look, he was great because he figured out a way to kind of WWE radio better than anyone probably. And,
yeah.
WWE has all of the makings of a good radio show. If you think about like a good cast of characters and the good guys and the bad guys, and you don't know if the bad guy is going to become good guys become bad. Like, you have people that are love to hate you, hate to love. It's all that stuff. And he figured out a way to do that on a, almost cartoon level. And then still, I mean, when I hear some of these stories I hear from people that have worked with him or in different incarnations, it's truly kind of wild what he's able to do still with a passionate core fan base, where I was told that I don't know how it is currently. I have no idea the inner workings of that show, but when there was no salary from any actual stations, he would just do these basically like Bubba-thons or whatever.
Yeah.
Fans would just donate money, kind of like he was doing like the OnlyFans of radio sort of thing. And people are, just give you an idea of just how passionate and loyal the fan base. That's what I love about like what we do in radio in general, is that most people, we're so low on the level of like celebrity or whatever you want to call it, entertainment. I don't think radio gets a lot of respect, but the people that are like fans are such hardcore fans that, when someone meets me that listens to the show every day, loves the show, they're more excited to spend 3 minutes with me than they would be if Clooney walked by or DiCaprio walked by, because even though those are much bigger stars, right, every stretch of the imagination, they don't know them on a personal level. They don't spend as much time with them, and that's the part that's crazy about building a nice like core, hardcore, passionate fan base. Is they will ride with you, and it takes a lot to lose those people. That's been like our biggest battle in LA. It's just like getting people that were kind of loyal to other shows for the last 5-10 years. We got felt like we got a late start, and to cut through and start pulling people away from show after show after show. It's like, to me, that's like the double sweet victory, because you're not just getting listeners for your show, but you're getting people you had to actually like change their habits completely from what they were doing.
Is that the overall thing people will say to you? Like, oh, I used to listen to this show and now I listen to Klein.Ally?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. You get like the people that are just like K-Rock loyalists, and that's cool, but like that felt like an easy win. I mean, we lost a lot of them at the beginning, so it's not. You hear people that are like, "Oh, dude, I've listened to K-Rock for 30 years, and I put up with this and that, and Kevin and Bean, and now you guys." And a lot of people you'd hear, they said like, "I left K-Rock when they started fucking everything up, and now I'm back," and that's a good thing to hear, I guess. But I think probably the best one is the people that. They'll say like, I was never into a radio, because you had radio shows you were into growing up. I know you were like a big Opie and Anthony guy. And
yeah.
Like, I had shows that I listened to growing up, and it was some people like, it's weird when they say like they were they're 35, 40, whatever. They never had a show. They're like, there was never a radio show I was ever like passionate about. There was never a show. There were shows I'd listen to, but if they were on, they were on. If they were off, whatever. There was not a show that I was like actively waking up, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube, downloading clips, going to events. Like, we just did an event a couple weeks ago. It was like a live podcast, which is the Showtime, which is like the bonus version of our show. And Yeah, I didn't know, dude. I always think we do these things at like some random place. I don't know, 50, 20 people show up, maybe. The room was like over, I don't know, the room held a couple hundred, but it was over capacity. And most of the people there, sure, you see some people you've seen before, but a lot of those people, they're like, can't believe that I drove an hour, or someone flew from Boston to come to this thing, like, because they said like they've never done that for any show ever. So it's weird to have that kind of impact on anyone, really.
Well, what's weird too is like, it's the term of the year, parasocial. Like a lot of these listeners think that they know the radio host because they spend a lot of time with that person in the car, and that's healthy. But also, it can sometimes be a little unhealthy because they feel like, especially like if it's like a person that calls into the show every day, they like think they work at K-Rock, or when I worked at the Bone, they think they work at the Bone, and it's like, yes, we appreciate you listening, but you don't want to like yell at them and have them stop listening. But there's times I've had to tell listeners like, yo, like it's just a job, you know?
Yeah, there's definitely people that, think that they are unofficial employees, and it's cool that they wear that proudly. Like I know that when Stern would ever put stuff on that I had kind of sent him over, like I wasn't getting paid to do that, but it was like, felt amazing that like, the GOAT was picking stuff that I was doing and putting it on the air. And at one point you kind of do convince yourself like, I think I'm like an unofficial writer for the Howard Stern show. And then you're like, but I'm not getting a paycheck for it. So I guess I'm not. I guess that's in my head,
What was it like getting a compliment from the GOAT?
I don't know if he technically ever complimented me in my fit. I mean, I talked to him a few times. Look, anytime I would pass stuff on, when I finally got hired at K-Rock in New York, and I was doing like overnights, like leading into his kind of show, when his people would start to show up, like JD and those guys, whenever I would meet, weirdos during the night on the phone, I would like leave lists of numbers. I'd be like, you got to call this guy. This guy's cool. And I think over the years, I passed over some people that became characters on their show. Definitely, wrote some segments, some joke stuff. It's look, when your stuff gets used. I mean, I've had jokes used on like the Comedy Central roasts that I've written for comedian friends, and yeah, it's a vanity thing, dude. It feels no one knows, you wrote it if you don't turn around and tell everyone that's my joke. But like, it's cool to like know, yeah, when the best, the top of their game, are deciding that your stuff's worthy enough to make it into their roster. It's definitely feels good.
Who are some of your favorite comics to have on your show?
It's weird, man. Comics?
They're weird, bro.
There's some comics that I think are so funny as comics, and I think they're like lousy radio guests. I think what happened with radio for a while is like every show I ever grew up listening to or whatever, we always had like the Friday, whatever comic was in town to do the clubs.
Yes.
Come in like clockwork. It didn't really matter who they were, if they were good or bad. And like shows developed relationships over the years, because it was like, every 6 months we have Jim Brewer in, or every 6 months we have, Dane Cook in, or whoever it was at the time. But I always found like if the show can be funny, you don't need. I think a lot of shows really weren't funny. Like I think people get fooled into thinking a lot of morning radio was funny because everyone's laughing and they're in a good mood. And,
yeah.
But if you actually break it down, a lot of them are not funny. And so I think they needed like actual quote funny people to come in and try to be funny. And I think if you're a part of a funny show, like my show is a funny show. The people on my show are funny. Like it's genuine. That's probably the number one thing we hear from people is like, your show's actually funny, as opposed to like, there's like people that are like, oh yeah, that's funny. But like people are like, I'm genuinely like laughing out loud on a daily basis. And I think that sometimes when you have someone in, it changes up the chemistry. And not that there aren't comedians we're friendly with, because there's a ton that I'm friends with on a personal basis. And probably the hardest thing that I do regularly is like comedians that I'm close with, personally, friends with, have hung out with personally, and they'll be like, hey, can I come by on Thursday and promote my whatever? And I'll be like, it's not going to work this week. And it's because sometimes I just don't think the shows are as good when they're in. And I hear the same comedians go on other shows, and I think to myself, nothing against the comedian, nothing even against the other shows they're on, but I don't think it really benefits either. Other than just getting the plug out there, I don't think it really makes the show any better, and I don't think it makes the comedian shine the way that I think that they'd like to.
Well, I have a weird thing with comedians where they sort of act like they're your friend when they need something, but then I'll have comedians that remember me from Calta Show be like, "Oh yeah, I want to call into Happy Hour," but then when they find out that me and Calta don't get along anymore, then they ghost on you. Or the biggest thing with radio hosts. Radio hosts, when I interview other radio hosts, they almost always promote, "Hey, I was on Happy Hour," and they always share it, and it's great. Comedians almost never share when I have the person on my show. Like I had Mike Winfield or some comedian hit me up, and I said to him, "I will interview you as long as you cross promote that you called into the show." He goes, "Cool." Did a 35-minute interview. It went great. Then he doesn't promote it, and I think it's because in radio, there's multiple shows you can listen to throughout the day, so you're kind of less of a threat in a way. But with comedians, there's only... I feel like... I'm not saying people in radio are not selfish, but I feel like comedians are next level selfish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, that's life, right? Everyone needs something from someone, and everyone's like, "I'll do this if you do that." And it's like, it's the sad reality is I'm not... doing this other than the fact that you're a real student of radio, fan of radio. I'm not looking to benefit from this. I know last time I did this, I think you were all pissed because I didn't retweet the link, but I'm not on Twitter. Like my Twitter account got hacked, so I wasn't pissed anymore.
No, I wasn't pissed.
Yeah, you were talking shit, but I don't care. But that stuff doesn't bother me because I would, if you were to say to me, "Hey, it would really help. I'm trying to build my numbers. Here's the link. Like put it out." I'll happily do that. I have no problem ever. But a lot of times I just either space on it or don't see stuff or whatever. But and the other thing is I find these conversations with you interesting for people that are really really into the science or whatever behind radio. Most people would find this probably mind-numbingly boring if they just want to be entertained, and that's no knock on you, that's just the subject matter. But if they're looking to be entertained and hear dick jokes and hearing about how I structure a show and my inner thoughts on comedians coming in, I think that's for the average person, it's probably incredibly boring. Now, I don't mind putting it out there if it helps you. I think that you're a guy that's been you've befriended a lot of people in the industry. I think a lot of people look at you like a champion for radio, and obviously we're all intimidated by you because you're a fucking 7-foot goon. But
I am.
Outside of that, I mean, I do think that there's a lot of what can you do for me, and we'll do that too. I mean, we'll have any guest on, and sometimes we feel like we're doing them a favor, and then we'll put up a video and hashtag them or ask them to collab on it or whatever, and they won't, and it's sometimes we're like, fucking asshole. But other times I kind of got past the point where I go, I can't take that stuff personally. It's a fleeting moment because you go, you always want to think so-and-so with 3 million followers fucking posted me. That's going to be, life changing. And then the reality is your life is identical if they repost it or not. It doesn't really do anything. So I try to not put too much thought into it.
Yeah, especially what I want to ask you, I'm curious, what is your relationship like with your bosses? Do you get along with your bosses? I personally get along with my bosses, but I only talk to them if I need to. You know what I mean? I never go into my boss's office and be like, "Yo, what's up, bro?" But if he needs to talk to me about something, I'll talk to him and we're cool. But do you like talking to your bosses, or do you try to space it out?
Well, I've been through fucking a lot of bosses. I mean, that's usually, if you're anything in this industry, it's because you've outlasted bosses, as opposed to the opposite, where the boss is around a while and they will oftentimes use shows or talent as the scapegoat to point fingers at. I was being teed up and set up to kind of be the fall guy for what had been going on at K-Rock when I first took over mornings. And there was a lot of positions and things being done behind the scenes so that I could have been reason why everything was falling apart, and then would have bought the boss an additional year to figure it out. And that's usually what everyone's just trying to do, is like cover their own ass, buy themselves more time. I didn't get along with that boss. We looked at the process very differently.
He's a douche. I know the guy. He sucks.
Yeah, like a lot of micromanaging, and then you get to a point where, when you second guess every decision you make, it's hard to have any sort of a consistent strategy. Whereas, like, the guy I work for now, legend, top ballot, first round Hall of Famer, Kevin Weatherly, the guy's confident enough in his understanding of radio, his understanding of talent, his understanding of what works and what doesn't work, that even when he took over, it came back to K-Rock after he'd been there for a long time and kind of built the mansion that then kind of imploded. He came back and they said to him, like, I think the first question they said to him is, "What morning show do you want? Whatever you want, we'll put the show. Like, you tell us what show you want in the country or what show you want to build, we'll make it happen for you." And he's like, "I'm sticking with the show I have." He's like, "I know it's ranked 23rd right now, but it's funny. I listen to it every day. I think it's going to be great. I think when people finally pick up on it, it's going to do huge numbers for the station, and I don't want to make a move." And they kept like questioning him and saying, "Are you sure? Like, what about this? Well, meet this show. There's a show in Chicago that's doing well. There's a show in Arizona. All these people." Yeah, everyone wanted to. I mean, no one in radio doesn't want to be mornings at K-Rock in LA. It's like that's kind of where I assume that's where everyone wants to end up. I know that's the only reason I started doing radio, so that one day I could get to LA and try to do mornings. So like the reality is that I have a lot of respect for that guy, because I've seen him make a lot of calls that are definitely the not popular opinion, and more often than not, he has been right. And that's like a rare thing to find. And then if he's not right, he'll own up on it, which is even rarer, because most people will never be wrong. So they'll find reasons why other people were wrong and they weren't. So the answer is, do I get along? Yes. Do I ever look for reasons to have meetings that we don't have to have? Absolutely not. It's a giant waste of time, exhausting. But it is a very different mindset when you go to work, you go to battle every day, and the person who's, your commander, lieutenant, is someone that you respect and trust, as opposed to someone that you think is going to walk you into a landmine. And that's a different way to go on the air every day. And there's times it still happens. We'll get text during this, rare, but like when we cross the line or when we do things that are the opposite. One year on April Fool's, we decided to change out all the K-Rock songs with the Kids Bop versions of the K-Rock songs, and we didn't address it at all. We just did that, and we didn't get approval for it, and we didn't really comment on the texts or calls were coming through, and everyone's like, "Sounds weird, dude. Imagine Dragons sounds like kids," and he got real pissed about that, because he's like, you should tell me if you're going to do these things. I'm not going to say you can't, but I want to know about them. I don't like finding out about it when everyone's asking me what the fuck's going on, and I just. It wouldn't be funny if you got approval for that shit. So but like, there's definitely times I've pissed him off, but I think he, for the most part, trusts my judgment. And I think that we've proven, especially the last year, that like there's a huge audience for what we're doing.
What was the moment like in this past year that the ratings began to really explode? Like, was there like a moment that you were in the office with your team? Like, what was it like when you guys finally began to really climb up the ladder?
So weird, man. There's so many kind of false alarm times. Like, we got a call a couple years ago. They're like, the next ratings book, you're going to be number one, 18 to 34. And I'm like, I didn't think anyone gave a shit about 18 to 34. And they're like, well, they don't, but it's a good indication of what could be coming. And then like, we were number one, but then that didn't hold. And then, look, I have felt for a while now, like, and this is just, forget about numbers for a second, just like me going out, walking around. I'm all over the place, and I'm constantly, at a CVS or a In-N-Out Burger or whatever, and the amount of people that are constantly like, "Yo, Klein, what's up, dude?" Like, that's the indication that the numbers are there. And then eventually they started, I don't know, 7-8 months ago, things just started like it felt weird. It was like doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling. And then they're like, oh, K-Rock has higher numbers now than they've had since 2000. And then, it's a bunch of, but I really don't, I know it sounds bullshit, but the only reason numbers are good at all, in addition to maybe the sales team uses them to try to get advertisers, is that it buys you time. Like, I think I've said that to you before. Like, everything is just about buying time to keep doing the show that you want to do. And when the numbers are shitty, your time is potentially limited, and the stuff that you want to do, a lot of times you start second guessing it, or you get micromanaged on it, or they tell you, hey, the stuff you're doing isn't working. And once things are going well and you're doing the way you want to do it, it just gives you more time to do the fun stuff. And that's where we're at now. So it's good.
So when I worked at 102.5 The Bone, it was a circus of a time there, but there was a guy that he would try to take credit. So he would like give me board op hours or phone screening hours, and he would try to claim that he was my mentor, even though he would gaslight me a lot. And that man's name is Seth Kushner, and we mutually cannot stand each other. And I was just wondering what it was like having Seth on the Klein.Ally show a few years ago.
That was the weirdest. That was probably that. I wish I had known that story before. I feel bad. I feel bad talking about anyone in a negative way that I think has genuine mental health issues that they should deal with, and that's kind of where I'm going to limit my statements on Seth. Seth's a guy that over the many years, I mean, he had been trying to work with me for over a decade, and he was persistent about it. He stayed on top of it, stayed in touch. I never probably met anyone that was more consistent and persistent in just trying to get a job or get a chance to get a job. It was actually incredible. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, if 10% of that goes towards, the actual job, he's going to be amazing, because that's so much of this job. It's just like, how do I have like strong work? How do I outwork everyone, stay on top of it? And I feel like for the most part, I'm a pretty good judge of character, and everything leading up to him, we were looking for a producer. He had once again, I didn't reach out to him, he reached out to me again and stayed on top of it. And I kind of pushed his resume at the top of the pile, and I vouched for him. I said, look, I've never worked with this guy, but I've definitely, almost worked with him a few different times, and he's been so on top of it. He understands the nature of a radio show, the high pressure of it. Yeah. And it was wild how quickly what I thought I was getting into was very different than the reality of what it was. And to be honest, I think I know that there was a lot of fear about, moving across the country, and I get all that. Like I remember when I moved from New York to LA, I also woke up that morning and was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know anyone there. I'll have to figure it out. But it was the thing that blew my mind above anything else. Yeah. And this is more of like a character flaw, is that when he basically decided, like a week after coming out, that like he couldn't handle LA, rather than just say, thank you for the opportunity, this isn't the show for me, or like I'm going to miss my family too much, or LA is way more expensive than I thought, whatever the reason is, he used it as an opportunity to try to sabotage me. And he basically wrote this scathing email. And I've worked with a ton of people, and I don't think you could find, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone I've worked with that would say anything. I mean, sure, I'm sure there's people that say I work too hard, or I try to expect too much, or whatever, but on a personal level, I don't think there's anyone that would come after me in a way like he did. And it was, that's the part that was crazy to me, because I get it. If you don't want to handle the move, it's not the job you thought you signed up for, all the things that he had kind of said, to man up and just say, like, hey, I wish you guys the best, but I can't do this right now. But he used it as an opportunity to try to take me down. And it was it was mind blowing, except for the fact that when I talk to other people that know him, they're like, yeah, that actually checks out. So
yeah, and now he's working with Bubba, and I'm like, Bubba offered me a job in June, and I declined, and then he blocked me, and I was like, I'm not going to work with you. Like this, yeah, I don't need to work with Bubba. You know what I mean? Like that's maybe Bubba 14 years ago, but I would have been too young. I was in high school, but yeah, this whole area, the problem I think there, and it happens a lot in Tampa radio in general, is it's a small pond, but you're a big fish, so you get recognized. I mean, I know you're saying you get recognized, but here it's like radio was the entertainment. It was the Hollywood of Tampa Bay, especially before social media. So a lot of these guys that I worked with have these big egos because this is all the area had was radio, because Tampa Bay is kind of a blue collar, at times low class area. And I think the problem was Tampa Bay humor is different than LA humor. And I think that's one of the things is like, even like when I go to Chicago, where I'm from, the level of intelligence of a conversation you can have with somebody is just different than Florida. It's not that Florida's dumb, but there's more dropouts. There's more people that barely got their GEDs. And I'm not trying to say that makes you dumb, but it's just education is terrible here. The humor is more lowbrow. I love Tampa. I like living here, but there's the humor that goes on in Tampa radio only works in Tampa. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's very weird down here. I don't know if you've been to Tampa Bay. It's very, it's almost like a Rust Belt city. It's very different because, like, I've been to West Palm Beach, and West Palm Beach and Tampa could not be any more different. It's insane.
Yeah, my grandma used to live in Sarasota, not too far from Tampa. And I definitely had been there. Not spent enough time there to judge the people, but it's funny because there's a lot of talk now with our show about what other cities it could work in and where they want to try it out in the upcoming year. And I guess my general feeling is like funny's funny anywhere, and yes, there's certain places where you go like, that show like that would never work in insert state or city here. But then I tend to believe that stuff that's funny does well. Shows that rate well on TV don't rate well in certain cities more than others. If it's a good show, it should rate well. Understandably, there's going to be places that are more conservative, places that are more liberal, but you're not doing a political show. You're just kind of talking about your life, and you're busting balls, and you're doing stupid stuff like that. Should translate, at least if it's half decent. And there's a lot of shows that have been successful in a city, and then the problem is when you're in a city for too long and you're too successful, you kind of get married to the market. You start kind of playing to that audience, and then I think it's more difficult to make the show attainable enough to new listeners in other parts of the country.
I think I heard the term married to the market about 35 times every time I go to a radio convention, because I think there was even a panel called Married to the Market, and it was like the top show in Norfolk, Virginia, and San Diego. That's definitely a term that radio is used, married to the market. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's funny. That's the only time I've ever heard it too, and they say that the concept, right, is that you're so beloved that you kind of start to believe your own bullshit, because all you hear from the people you run into around where you are, oh, you're so great and I love you, and you can get a far way with decent personality and making a lot of local references, and people are like, oh, that's my coffee place you talked about, and kids go to the school I used to go to. That gets you so far with people feeling comfortable and familiar, and then there's a level past that where it becomes what else, right? So there's a lot of shows that do crazy numbers where they are. When we were up in San Francisco, the show, everyone was like, oh, Sarah and Vinny, that's the show, and they have a passionate fan base that listen to that city. I'm convinced if you were to put that show on in any other city in America, it would have 0 listeners because it's so, a show for those people in that city. But, who the hell knows?
What did you,
my take on that.
What did you think of working in the Bay Area?
Well, when I went up there, I was at Sirius. I was doing a morning show on Playboy. They had reached out to me to come back to terrestrial. They said, look, we have a few opportunities in different cities, and they told me we have something in Dallas that could be interesting. We have something, I mentioned, I forget another place, and then they said, and we have something in Northern California, and I'd been to San Francisco, I think, once before. But I remember thinking at the time, this was like, 2014, it's when every app was like, Tinder and Twitter and everything was like taking off in the tech. So I was excited because I was like, oh, it'll be a cool time to like see kind of what else is happening there. It felt like everything of interest was coming out of the Bay Area. And I had
Warriors were coming up.
Yeah, the Warriors. It's funny, when I first got there, they couldn't give away. They were like every week they were like, please come, take as many tickets as you want. Like, and then within a year, it was like, it was the Giants
Finals.
winning World Series, the Warriors winning. Yeah, it was crazy. It was a very cool time when I was there. But for me, I guess living in Southern California is definitely much more my vibe, I think, in general.
What are some things, if there's anything you can say, what are some things you're pumped about in 2026 for your show?
I think we had a nice run, going on the better part of the last year. Feels like we have a little job security, which you never feel like you actually have in this industry. You're right. What'd you drop?
That was my mom. That was
your mom?
Yeah.
Your mom is joining us on the show? Put her on.
She's putting coffee in the microwave. I'm recording at my apartment. I'm in St. Pete.
You couldn't find a better option for this than sitting in your kitchen by the microwave? Okay. Does she have so little respect for your show that she just decided she's going to make a snack in the middle of our chat?
Do you want to hear what happened? This is so radio. So I'm currently locked out of the computer I use at work. So here's what happened. Like when you type in a password wrong 4 times, it locks you out?
Yeah, it happens to me daily.
Yeah, but it's doing it after one attempt. So everybody in IT and all the engineers are like, oh yeah, you're typing it wrong too many times. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm only doing it once. So then I put in a ticket. I have the national IT for the company fix the problem. But then later on Monday, I go to log in again, and it did the same thing. So then I went home. I drank a little because I was annoyed on Monday because it's annoying. So then Tuesday, I go to work. It lets me log in. I'm like, okay, cool. We're back in business. Today I go to work, and it's doing the same thing. So I wrote an email to IT. I have nice equipment at my house. I had a pod track board, but yeah, it's annoying because then everybody thinks I'm typing the password wrong, and I'm like, no, or it's driving. It's such a radio in 2025 going into 2026 that I'm locked out. It's insane, Kevin.
You got to capitalize the big and big happy 69. That's the problem.
Yeah, I got to put a B exclamation point G. Yeah, no, my password's actually really easy to remember, and it just was making me kind of mad when everyone's like, "Yeah, you're putting it in wrong too many times." I'm like, I swear I'm getting okay. I'm gonna relax. I'm gonna breathe. I'm getting mad thinking about it because it's like the other funny part. I love my boss, but he's gone on vacation until January 5th. So I'm here making commercials and production at work, and the problem is he was letting me log into his account to make things while I was locked out, but now he's gone and there's nobody in the building. So isn't that just the glamorous part of radio?
It's a great opportunity for you to really mess with your boss's browsing history while he's not around. I mean, guy's got a lot of faith in you to give you his password. That seems like way too much power.
No, he typed it in for me. That's the problem. I don't have it. It's just people are always like, oh my God, it must be so amazing working in radio. Like I'm on dating apps and I actually don't tell girls anymore that I work in radio. I wait until the last minute when they ask, because a lot of times you'll get clout chasers of like, oh my God, I'm going to be famous. But they'll be like, oh, it must be so amazing working in radio. I'm like, yeah, I'm literally locked out after one attempt.
If someone is clout chasing, someone who works in radio, they do not know the definition of clout, sadly.
Dude, you would be surprised in Tampa. You got these trashy girls that, man, they love their radio, but it's it leads to bad breakups. That's the problem there.
Yeah. Well, so 26. I'm looking forward to your mom dropping more stuff during our chats. I'm looking forward to, we've got some big plans for the show. We're doing some bigger. We've got some cool trips we're doing with listeners, and we're flying a bunch of listeners to Denver for a ski trip. That's nice. I mean, when things start going well and they start to kind of funnel some resources back into the show, you have a chance to do some cool shit, and that's always the fun part, is giving people experiences. And I've been able to kind of keep this team together for a while, which is never easy, and so I've always fought for the people I work with. I've definitely taken my own pay cuts over the years so that other people on the show could kind of eat or pay rent. We got some big stuff that I can't get into yet because we're going to unveil it early in the year. But the goal now is we have like a nice regular audience that's there, and I think the big mistake that shows sadly kind of make is that as soon as they feel a little bit of like consistency or a little bit of safety, that's when I think they really start phoning it in. They decide they're going to take flying lessons and buy a plane, and they don't actually put in the work that goes into trying to entertain the audience you have. And I think that happens far too often, and I get it. And I've always said it'd be great to be able to sell out one day. I don't think I have that in me. Yeah. I
believe I was drunk. I was drunk in June. I was going to a concert, and the flying lessons producer wrote the most passive-aggressive comment on my post, and you were my shrink for that night. I messaged you on Instagram because, man, it is funny when... This is why I've always respected you, is you still talk to people even when your show is kicking ass. Because there's some people that when they're in 17th place, they are your best friend. But once they're on in 50 cities, you are you don't exist. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I always thought that I remember that crazy email or whatever thing that went viral when it was Steve Harvey put out that message. It was basically like, don't talk to me if I'm working because, and he came across as this total asshole. And then I was thinking to myself, the guy's got like 15 jobs and he's doing Family Feud, he's doing radio, he's doing this, doing that. And at some point, I guess like I still like the fact that I can bullshit with people. I try to still make time to I'll talk to anyone in the building, if salespeople or if it's, the guy to talk to the security guy downstairs. I've at some point, I guess getting so busy is good. The downside is that I guess that you have less time for bullshitting, and then people, I think, take it personally. I know that for a fact. I mean, there was people, comedians, whatever, that I was, friendly with, texting on a regular basis with, and then as things get busier for them, it looks like from the outside, like, oh, they got too fucking successful, they got too big to get back to me, and then you can look at it like that, or you could just go, they're all over, like everything your days just get shorter and shorter and shorter, and there's so many more people that are pulling at you. So, and I'm not the type of person that will ever try to, I'm very much not a name dropper in the way that a lot of other people are, where if they have any sort of, quote, connection to clout chasers, they will use that as an opportunity to drop names into every conversation and mention, so-and-so is my friend. I think a lot of thing too, which is funny with radio, is that like there's a ton of people, and this is true for like rock stars, and I've probably interviewed 15, 20 times. I don't consider them friends any more than the guy I just ran into at 7-Eleven, even though it feels, hospitable when we see each other and you're like, oh, what's up? Good to see you. I also assume that they're doing that all day, every day, their entire year. And that, that's just part of I think a lot of people buy into the bullshit. I think a lot of radio people are like, that's my good friend because I've talked to him 20 times over the years. And, I've never, unless you are going out and eating at, Denny's at 4 a.m. after a night of, throwing down shots, you're probably not that close.
Yeah, it's pretty sad when they like name drop, especially with comics, because I've seen it with morning radio that the comics will show up when they need to sell out the local club, but then when they're at the like theater, if they make it to the Tampa theater and then they're big time, the comics don't show up anymore. And I feel like you need to have friends that are not in entertainment. Like I feel bad for like morning radio hosts that all their friends are like, oh, this radio guy or this person, and then it's like the person ghosts on them, and it's very much a transactional relationship,
Yeah, but also think about like your real friends, like if whoever your best friend is. If your best friend said, yo, Ryan, I need you to get me at the airport, and you didn't want to go, you would be like, dude, fuck off. Have you heard of Uber? Like, take an Uber. That's like a real friend right there. Like, when it's someone that you're like not that tight with, you're like, I guess I got to pick you up. Like, so you get to a point where either it means you're not friends at all, or you're so close that you don't even have to go through the motions. And like, I hate asking, for favors. Yeah, if it's a friend, I guess it doesn't really feel like a favor because it's friends, just like what friends do. But when you're at a point where it still feels like you're asking for favors, then you go like, all right, maybe we're more acquaintances than we are actually friends. But look, we are in it's a transactional world we're in. It's very rare. I mean, even like when I do stuff for my wife, like in the back of my mind, I go, if I pick up this dry cleaning and stop by and get her matcha, like maybe there's an outside chance she gives me a blowjob later. Like it's never not transactional. It's always transactional. Like, you do it because you like the person or trying to get a blowjob later. But regardless, it's like, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you could get caught up in that. I definitely have felt it. There's definitely been times over the years, I wish I had better examples, but where people were like, so-and-so wants to come do your show, and then in 2 weeks later, you're going to go on their TV show or their game show or their podcast, and then so you like, all right, cool, like that seems fair, and then they come on the show, and then you go like, all right, where's our turn? They're like, oh, they changed the plans. And you're like, oh,
I've heard that, bro. Oh, it's the best. But you have to kind of not. I'm gonna work on 2026, not getting mad about that because that's one of my flaws. Is that would drive me nuts. But I think that's from you doing it so long that you're just like, whatever. And weed.
Yeah, I don't. Look, I feel like it's probably the California hippie in me, but like, I definitely get fired up and angry about shit that I shouldn't get angry about, and some of it is definitely petty stuff that fires me up at extreme levels. But when it's things like that, I always question. I'm like, is the amount of energy I'm going to waste on this worth it?
Yeah,
because I don't know. I know a lot. Sometimes it's weird. I don't know. Little things sometimes will fire me up, and then there's other times where I'm like, I feel like I should be more mad about this, but it just doesn't bother me. But also, I've been off, work for a week now. It's holidays, and I've been drinking, so maybe I'm just in a better space at this exact moment.
I never drink, and I've drank the last 2 days. It's crazy. And I'm drinking tonight.
It's that weird time of the year where we're almost into dead week. I don't know when this episode drops, but that weird time between Christmas and New Year's where no one really knows what day it is, and it's just like randomly you're just drinking a martini with cereal in the morning, and you're like, I guess, what the hell, why not?
Dude, you just perfectly. Mine was drinking wine and a Hot Pocket at noon earlier.
Yeah, it's classy because it's a Hot Pocket.
Kevin, how can people find your show? Can you believe we've been talking for 50 minutes?
Well, I can only believe it because my battery is blinking red right now, so it may cut off in the middle of this plug. But we're on. It's funny actually. I think they added K-Rock to the iHeart app, even though we're not an iHeart station.
Yeah, it's weird.
But when you search for our show, the only thing that comes up is my chats with you over the years, which is really funny. So, and I think there's people on other iHeart shows that are trying to make it so that you cannot listen to just Klein.Ally show on the iHeart app, because so you can like listen to K-Rock the station, you can find our show somehow through that, but like they definitely don't make it easy. They don't make it any easier at my company too. It's funny, like we're I think the most or one of the top 2 or 3 most successful radio to podcast shows in the company, and like if you search for our show, I think you have to spell out Klein.Ally SHO before it even like autofills show. If not, you get a lot of other options for shit like Klein.Ally dog grooming podcast and it's a lot of other bullshit. So anyway, Klein.Ally show, K-Rock LA, stream it on the I don't know. I think we're on Spotify every day.
Yeah, that's where I listen.
Podcast, good way to listen. We're on YouTube. I mean, that's the big one that we're probably going to spend more time pushing in 26 because there's just a lot more upside there, and they've done a bunch of research based on like who's been watching and how they've discovered it and how many people. And you know, the company doesn't love YouTube because they don't really get to keep a lot of the money. YouTube keeps most of the YouTube monies, but like there's definitely going to be more of a focus on some of the stuff that's happening on the YouTube show for that audience, so they get something on top of the radio show. And then you can find us there as well, just all things KROQ and all things Klein.Ally show on Instagram.
Kevin, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show, and I'm going to go get drunk tonight, but this has been a lot of fun talking to you for the last 51 minutes and 27 seconds. Wow. How many times did your mom drop stuff in that 51 minutes? Only that one time. She's on the couch sitting she's just like making sure she doesn't do anything. I feel bad. That's going to be the highlight of the episode. Yeah. Check that out. If you missed it, back scroll to about 20 minutes ago when a mug definitely went down hard on the ground. I think it was a plastic cup, but yeah, I feel bad. She gets to be my Uber tonight as we go to my friend's house for a party. So. Oh Jesus, man! Radio that's why you got all those clout chasers, dude. Guys drinking wine, eating hot pockets. His mom's driving them around. This is why all the women in Tampa want those radio guys. Kevin Klein, thank you for calling in the Happy Hour with Ryan Hoppe. Sweet divots, bro. All right, dude. Be well. We'll do it again in here. Sweet divots to you, good sir. Goodbye. Bye. TikTok, toxic joker playing cruel pranks. Hoppe's hour almost done. Feels like robbery in banks. Ryan Hoppe on the mic, dropping wisdom in streams. Syndicated sorrow, now it's time to shatter dreams. Oh, the Hoppe hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilted rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. Buzzing, but the laughter's growing dim. Eardrums mixing Hoppe like fingers without rings. PHX to FM, shoutouts hit the street, but soon the sound will vanish like shadows in the heat. Oh, the Hoppe hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. But the laughter's growing dim. Eardrums mixing Hoppe like fingers without rings. PHX to FM, shoutouts hit the street, but soon the sound will vanish like shadows in the heat. Oh, the Hoppe hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair. Oh, life's just so unfair. Like clockwork to a show. Now it's time to face the silence like a TV on snow. Ryan Hoppe held the mic with humor so divine. The void left in our hearts wider than a canyon line. Empty speaker silent time but coming to an end. Like a roller coaster stopping round the river's bend. Hoppe's jokes and jabs, these are daily grind. Now silence louder than the thoughts we can't rewind. Oh, the Hoppe hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a wilting rose. Laughter and joy dissolving in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh,
happy hour is coming to a close. Radio waves fading like a dozen rose. Laughter and joy is all in the air, but we'll keep the rhythm. Oh, life's just so unfair.
Happy hour. Happy hour.
It's time for Hoppe in the morning.
RyanHoppeRadio.com.
And like that, he's gone.
Whenever we're going outside, all I smell is poop.
I'll kick you in the nuts and we'll call it a day.
Happy hour is now over. Happy hour is now over. Game over.
This concludes our broadcast day. Good night, and God bless America.
Doors closing.